Welcome to the Weekly Pistol Podcast. At the end of this hour, we want you better than when we started.
Don't use that, you
No.
motherfucker. We're going live.
We did this one.
All right, we're on.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
Scared.
We're back again. For you guys that are back following us again, I appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and that little bell because it sends off in whatever world it is that we're podcasting again.
Just hit the button.
Yeah. And again, I'm Manny.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Teabag.
I'm Veronica.
Teabag is in the house.
He's adopting his given name.
He's taking it in.
I was watching that and I was like, oh, well, talk about my balls, I guess. Teabag.
Yeah, he's taking it. He's taking it in completely.
Wow.
Hey, I do have a quick question. It's not
Cardinals
related
lost.
to yeah, I'm a little bummed about that.
Different outfit.
No. I had the
shoulda-
right outfit on earlier. I changed it because they lost.
You didn't.
I'm
No,
like, screw the superstition.
you didn't keep the same chonies on. That's what happens. You got to go the whole
Maybe
outfit.
that was different.
Go ahead. What's your question?
For donations to Pistol, is there a way to set up like automatic payments or like?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I needed to know.
Ongoing
Yeah.
recurring. Yeah.
Okay.
In perpetuity. Yes. Forever. Please.
How do they
sign
do
up.
that?
Did you say in perpetuity? That's a big word for you.
It is.
Somebody told him.
Please define.
Hold on a second. I think
Please
Veronica just
define.
insulted me.
First of all,
Whoa.
Let's go back.
somebody he knows stole a dictionary out of the library.
Right.
And they were sitting around some Scotch whiskey one night.
Just
Yeah.
reading it.
Look at this thing.
Tony, is there a hand mark right here from where she's slapping? That's a big word for Manny. Don't ask me to spell it. So, yes, you can do that. If you
Okay.
go to our website, you can click the donate button, and then it'll ask you for a reoccurring payment or one-time payment,
Oh, that's
and then
cool.
you can do that.
All right.
We should do like a commercial like the rescue dog one, like in the arms of
It makes me cry. Don't do
the
that.
angel.
That is the best worst.
Well, there's three of us out here have
commercial
dogs. We
ever.
can.
It definitely makes me cry every time for sure.
Yeah.
It is. It's
It
so
makes me
sad.
change the channel.
Yes.
It doesn't make.
I can't take it
Yeah,
anymore.
it doesn't
No.
make me donate. It
Can't
just
take it.
pisses me off, and I change the channel like Mark.
See, my dad is the one that donates. To
Yeah.
him.
Really?
Out of like what? Really, Dad?
You never know.
Couldn't
Those
give
dogs,
me some
they-
fucking
Right?
money.
Yeah.
Oh, my account's open for automatic donations.
Exactly. It's like, hey, I'll
They
give
need
you
the
my
bacon
account
bits.
number. I will.
So,
Gladly.
I just lost track. I got hit so hard by that blindside that Veronica gave me. Right, this is like bam.
I was thrown off by
like,
the
holy
word. I was like,
crap.
did that just come out of your mouth?
Wow.
What a word.
She's just like, see bad guy, arrest bad guy. That's what she gets. There's no other. So, with this particular podcast, I wanted to get a little bit more serious than we normally are, and talk about a couple of things. The first thing is the suicides that are going on in New York. Now, they're up to 10 in as many months. That's one a month. And I know I'm not smart enough to do the math, Veronica, but I think that's one a month because we're in the 10th month. There's a lot of fingers I can check with. But I having seen this occurring and us posting it on our social media every time that an officer had done this in New York, it was starting making me think about, what was it about them that was so powerful that they could not ask for help? Because when you think about it, that is just that's everything. You're wiping out your existence. You're hitting tidal waves with your whole family, and either pride, fear, I don't know, shame. And maybe there wasn't anything for them to reach out to back in New York, but you would think that a department like that would have.
There's the means for sure.
Yeah. And so one of our members had sent me an article that I then in turn sent you guys that had to do with the them changing some stuff in New York. And I know I sent it to you guys, but basically what it said was that after all of these now suicides, so one a month, NYPD has now created this it's free mental health care, I guess, which you would think that they would have this already,
Yeah.
right, with peer support. So it's saddening that we're in 2019
And they're just not doing
and they're
this.
just now coming up with this free. You would think that even in peer support they would have something to go to when they're struggling, because a lot of these officers have actually taken their lives on duty, right? And so
Yeah.
now they're not just fucking their families up, but they're fucking their partners up, right? Because their partners have to come get them.
Well, and that's
Well,
how
I
that
think-
then spreads like a cancer, you know.
I think the symbolism there is huge. I don't think it's. You didn't touch on the thought that I had about it. You said, is it pride? Is it? I don't know what the other things were. You were rambling. But I'm still thinking about perpetuity also. But I think many of them don't get help, and I'll say it out of ignorance, and it's not, hey, I don't know what PTSD is, I never heard of it before, because everybody has, but you don't have the ability, I think, to first recognize the onset of a post-traumatic stress disorder symptom. Like, oh, I'm just having a tough time sleeping. I just keep thinking about this call. I just keep, I'm just drinking more. I'm just, and all these peripheral ripples way far away from the original pebble that upset the pond. This is what everybody notices. Hey, man, Mark's drinking a lot. Hey, why is he acting like such a jerk? All these other things. Why is his marriage disintegrating? All these other things are rippling out. That's what everybody looks at. They're looking at all these ripples way out away from the original event, and they don't recognize it. They're close people to you. They're your family. They're your friends. They're your spouse. They don't recognize it. I don't even think the officer in the original event can sometimes recognize it. That's why, the education and the awareness of all of these things has to keep getting presented to people. They have to keep being told, hey, if you're having a hard time sleeping, it is going to manifest in this way, and it's going to snowball into this catastrophe. You've got to get it right now before it goes so far out away from the original event.
But I think as far as the suicides themselves go, I don't know that any of them have even come out to say whether they were already getting treatment or not. But I don't know that it's the shame, it's any of those things. I think sometimes when you're just so stuck in it, there are moments where it's just so overwhelming, because even though I didn't think, I never had a plan for suicide, there were definite moments where whatever was happening was just so overwhelming that I was laying on the, I just remember laying on the bathroom floor like, I'm just done. I don't even care about this. I'm better off, without. And it wasn't because I was in therapy, right? I was going to Pistol. I had support. I was probably on medication. I was already in phases of trying to get better, but there's just those moments when it's just super overwhelming. And in those moments, people make dumb choices, right? We just want it to stop, and they just, without thinking through what might happen, all they know is they want what's happening right now to stop, and that's the end all.
Yeah, and I don't even, when you said they make dumb choices, it's not even a choice at that
Right,
point. It's,
right,
It's
it's
like
just-
your last grasp, like you're
Right,
drowning, and
right.
you do it as I got to get a breath of air
Right.
to get the relief of this drowning pain that I'm going through.
Right.
And
I've been there, and that's exactly what I've felt.
Yeah, and I don't think in those moments you're thinking, I'm too embarrassed to get help. I'm too
No,
embarrassed.
no.
You're just like,
Yeah.
I just want it to stop. The only way that I can make this stop, maybe this is the only way I can make
Because
this
all my
stop.
other go-to
Yeah.
help methods or coping mechanisms are not working at this moment,
Right.
and I can't take it right now.
Right.
And one of the things that you said, Mark, was, going back into that pebble, and then people saying, well, what's wrong with Mark? He's just drinking too much, or he's angry all the time. That's a pass for cops.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say.
That
yeah.
They just say, you know what? He's a cop. That's
He's a
what
cop.
cops do.
That's what
Right.
happens.
Yep.
Right? They
Yeah.
get divorced. They drink a lot, and
Uh-huh.
it's almost a forgiveness that we're given to our own detriment. Because
Right.
rather than say you shouldn't be drinking, it's the past that says you saw bad shit, you should be drinking,
Mhm.
and then they allow that to happen.
Hmm.
They don't necessarily feed it or encourage it, but they're also not helping it. They just acknowledge it and then they move on. And so I found the article, and this was off CBS News. It says, as NYPD suicides rise, city to provide officers free mental health care. That is something that struck me. Like, it wasn't free before. I can tell you that I know they have insurance,
Yeah.
and they could have done that. And I don't know that just by getting free insurance or free mental is going to make any difference. It wouldn't have
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't-
I had free counseling, and that just about drove me over the edge because the first,
Well, you know what you get when you
the
for
first
free.
yeah, worth every penny.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
And the
like,
guy,
what's the quality? Like,
Well,
you
they're
know,
the ones
quality
that-
of care.
yeah, they tell you, hey, teabag, don't just think happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy thoughts.
Like,
right?
here's this medication. Now you should be fine.
Yeah.
Go back to work.
Well,
know?
you don't even get that for free.
Right, right.
You're getting the. You're
That's
getting
true.
the-
Yeah, you're just getting the care,
counselor.
the counseling.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
So, that was it. It bothered me quite a bit because we have lost officers in the Arizona, Phoenix metro area who have taken their lives. I never thought of them as weak or anything like that. I'm not trying to push that as being part of the issue, but it was. I was angry. I never wanted to hurt myself. I wanted to hurt other people, right? Because nobody was listening to me, and it was to the point where I was like, how much shit do I have to tell you is wrong with me before you understand this is what is wrong with me? Because I'm fighting 3 different battles, 3 different enemies that are firing nonstop at me, and it's just now become a battle. And I'm like, I'm going to take motherfuckers out. Like, they're not listening. Something has to happen because if I take myself out of the fight, they win. That was my thought process. Still a warped process. It's still a warped thought, just as warped as you're going to take your own life.
Right.
It's just a different way, another avenue of seeing that and that frustration. And we see it so much. And what's happening now is the people that were wanting to be cops their whole life and go through this, that pool is getting shallower and shallower because now they're getting the bottom of the barrel of these officers who should never, ever, ever, ever carry a gun. Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? These are the snowflakes that come in that says, let's de-escalate this person pointing a gun at me.
The Paul Blarts.
Yeah. Sir. Well, it's
Small cop.
yeah, well, there's two different kinds, right? You got the ones that think they're tactical, that have been training their whole life to be ninjas, and they're going to be cops. And then you've got the other ones that are the snowflakes. Like, I can just hug everybody. Let's de-escalate
Like-
this down. Let's put the gun down. You just didn't ask him nicely enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Say
And-
it delicately.
Yeah, they have feelings too, and I think that frustration is it's bleeding, and it's a cancer that is spreading at a greater rate for first responders, more so with police, because they're wanting these cops to make a split-second decision, and then they get to go back and override that decision, and allow for society to pass judgment without having any idea of what that officer was faced against. And they think just because it's on body camera that that is 100 absolutely percent. You see it on the body camera, he did this. When it doesn't go their way, they want to change the scenario.
Yeah.
Right? And what it's doing is it's slowly deteriorating these officers. Right? You're second guessing yourself, you're slower, your response time, and you're just fucking with your mind. It's a mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was listening to those articles, watching those articles, I was like, what is it? What is it about? And I'll ask each of you, what do you think for you individually, what was it that prevented you from saying, okay, I need help? Was it you asked for help and didn't get the correct help? Was it shame?
To me, it was a number of things. One, I was told it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing, what you're having is normal. I was having nightmares about this guy shooting me. And they're like, well, that's normal. I was like, oh, okay. I'll deal with normal. And like 3 months into it, I was like, yeah, but every time I close my eyes, bam, that gun's going off on me. And I was like, I can't get any sleep. Then I knew I wasn't coping, right? And so then I asked my department, and I said, "Hey, I need to see some. I'm having nightmares," and they sent me to this free counselor, free, and worth every penny. And I told her my incident and the shooting I got in, and yeah, her first words to me were, "Well, why did you even have your gun out?"
Jesus.
And
And you didn't smack her?
I wanted to. I mean,
See, that
so you
knife
talk
we were
about
talking
wanting to
about?
go on
Mm.
homicidal.
She knows
I could have
better.
killed that person. I could have killed that lady right in that office. And I don't know what she said after that, because boom, a
Mm.
wall went up, and I was
Yep.
like, this is exactly the bull crap that I thought psychotherapy was. Useless.
Mhm.
And I thought, I'll never go to this again.
Because she didn't understand you, right?
No idea. So
No
that's
idea.
that's the danger of free counseling. It might be the worst experience you ever have. And then the other thing was, I was on police calls. I know if you say, I want to hurt myself or somebody else,
The keywords we look for
I'm
all
getting
the time.
locked up.
You're going to happy school.
And I had those thoughts.
72 hours.
I had those thoughts, and I knew that I didn't want to get locked up. I didn't want to go to the county psych ward because I had visited a friend there, and
Right.
it was like
It's
one
not
flew over the
72
cuckoo
hours. They
nest.
lie to you.
Yeah, it is a lie.
They lie.
It
They'll
is,
keep you
yeah.
there as long
Yeah.
as they
Yeah.
want.
It's whenever they feel like
Yeah.
fucking letting you go.
Yeah, it's whenever you don't exude crazy anymore.
Yeah, I ended up getting
Which is
locked
impossible
down.
for us.
Getting locked down years later, but I was so afraid of getting locked down, losing my job, losing my badge, and all that other stuff. I was afraid to ask for help too, like the
Right.
help that I really truly needed. Eventually, I tried doing it like under the radar, like I'll just go, you know, and I wasn't truthful. Like I was like, you know, are you feeling suicidal? No. Oh no.
Me?
What?
Never.
Are you crazy?
Look at me.
Because I am. Yeah. It was like, yeah, it was. So I knew what not to say,
Right.
and I was so paranoid and so afraid of the people that I was going to get help from that I couldn't truly say. Because I mean, I would have got locked. I would have got locked down.
So
right then.
that I think is pretty much all of ours. But why? Well, we weren't around at the time. But
Yeah, and keep in mind too. So my thing was over 15 years ago, and I'm gonna tell you, from there to here was like the dark ages to current modern
Yeah.
medicine.
Right.
Because I mean, they were ready to perform an exorcism on me and break out leeches and every other kind of witchcraft voodoo stuff they could come conjure back then.
Bloodlet.
Yeah, but now it's way progressed, way far away from what it was then. And I mean, they started me out with horrendously strong and antiquated medications, and that immediately threw me almost like into a coma.
you said antiquated. You don't make fun of the white guy because he uses big words. It's only the fucking Chicano over here.
The London gentleman.
Manny, we all know you stole the dictionary from somewhere.
So let me ask you, Mark. Going forward, it did take you some while to reach out to Pistol. What
Yeah.
about that? What about that prevented you? What was that you were just? Were you stubborn? Were you pissed off?
No.
Were you embarrassed? What was
Uh-huh.
it?
No, I was because of how my stuff played out, I had like no trust in police. And I thought, I'm gonna go into this group and there'll be, first of all, I already know there's people there that I know from my place, my department, and I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them, and I'm, you know, so I had this, what I used to like to call my healthy sense of paranoia that keeps me alive and out of trouble. So it's been a great friend of mine and a constant companion. And
That's-
my paranoia was saying, if you go in there and say anything, they're going to start an internal affairs investigation on you.
Right.
And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it just spun out in my head. And so I just said, nope, not going. Because I didn't trust it. I was afraid of it. And I thought, I'm going to go in there. And I also did a lot of time in AA when I got out of the psych ward. And because they told me I was an alcoholic. So I was in AA for years. And I was like, I got nothing out of that. I mean, for a season I did, but it ran its course for me. And I was like,
Right.
I'm not getting no more out of this. All it's doing is pulling me back down into the tragic event of, you're a drunk. and you're never gonna stop being a drunk.
Right.
And
So-
I don't throw shade on AA. It's a good organization, and it's if you need that, I mean, it's good for you. But for me, it had ran a course, and I was coming out of there feeling worse than when I was going in. I was like, well, then that's not good.
So I have two things you said I've heard from people who've contacted me about Pistol, and one of them was there are people there from our department that I don't want to see. I don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me either doubt what's going on at Pistol or just not want to be there because I don't like these people because I didn't trust them, you
Right.
know. And then the other thing was, I already forgot.
Antiquated.
That's it's pretty standard. She got one of the two ideas out.
That's
Hey,
good.
for us, that's good.
50-50.
50-50.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Shit.
Win every time.
So, I
Well,
guess
I said I was afraid of getting locked up too for saying a harmful event.
Well, no.
Oh no, I know what it was.
What?
The AA thing, the repeating that you're an alcoholic, repeating this.
Mhm.
So I have also heard from members who have come to Pistol in the past, and I've reached out, said, hey, like, why aren't you still going or whatever? And one of the things I did hear was having to sit in the circle and repeat
Your story.
my story just was something that bothered me. And, and I kind of said, like, we really only share our actual critical incidents now when we have someone new, and we're
So-
trying to break those barriers.
And show camaraderie with that.
Right.
that.
yeah, we don't do that at all.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the group doesn't have someone new, but
Well-
the extension of the olive branch, just to let you know what the other person, because look, we're fucking cops. Most of us are fucking nosy people by nature. Why the fuck? Why is Veronica here? What the fuck happened to her? You get that shit out of the way right away, and you never repeat your story unless you want to. What that is that's an excuse. That's the excuse for someone to say it happened once and I don't want to do it ever again. And
It's hard work to bring that up.
well, it is hard work, but
Emotionally.
as we sit here, we're a testament, and we have well over 300 officers who can at their own time say it does help.
Mhm.
And it's not that we're the only place. There's plenty of places you can go to. You can test the waters, but you should still test them for your own mental health. So, Veronica, with you, you're a runner. Like, you will outrun everything. And so what is it?
Forrest.
Yeah, like, where's Veronica? She just took off running. What the fuck just happened? She gets spooked? What happened? She saw something bad and ran. So what were you suicidal at any time?
Like I said, I never had the idea. I had never had a plan, and it's not something I wanted to do. But there were moments where I just thought it was the only option because I was so inadequate anymore. Like, I couldn't take care of my family. I couldn't work. Like, I was out of work for a while. I don't even know how my children survived. Like, I wasn't parenting when they were just being children. I was angry all the time, so I was yelling at them for doing nothing, just because I couldn't stand to hear anything. And my head was always going that any sound just made it worse. So my kids would just be sitting there playing together, and I would lose my shit because I just couldn't hear them I just didn't want to hear it.
Mhm.
And so there were definite times where I just thought they'd all be better off if I just wasn't here anymore, right?
Mm.
So that was my extent. I was more like you, where I wanted to just hurt people because everyone just seemed to be out to get me. Nobody understood. Nobody that I thought was supposed to have my back had my back. And I just was always in a bad mood. So I hated everything and everyone. And it was easy. And because, I have those lack of emotions and whatnot. The one emotion I don't lack is anger. So I'm a lot easier to project that versus something that may be sad or something about me like that.
So when you were struggling and you weren't going to come to group, and then you left again because you thought you were better.
Twice.
what did again ran away as fast as she could. She was out.
Twice.
She's like, hey, I feel better. I'm just running as far away from those fuckers as I can get. What when you were finally brought back, or you did come back, what was it that was in your mind that said, okay, that's it? Did you say I can't outrun this? Was this?
So here's what it was. I mean, I was brought into Pistol the first time by another member, somebody that I had worked with before. Essentially said, you're coming with me to Pistol, and I was like, okay, well, I'm fucked up. I don't know what's wrong. You must know because you've been through this. I'll listen. And then I thought, I don't know how long I came to Pistol groups for, and then I stopped, and then I came back once. Like a year later, I showed up a couple times, and then I was done again. And then the following year, I thought I was doing better, right? I was like, oh, I'm doing so much better. And I had gone on a different podcast, and then I got this call from Manny, and he was like, why aren't you at our groups? And then it wasn't until I listened to my podcast that I realized how fucked up I still was.
Dude, she was a train wreck.
Yeah,
That's
because I
funny.
could hear it in my voice, and I was like, holy crap, like that's what I sound like when I talk about this still? Like I thought I
Wow.
was better, you know?
Huh.
And so listening to that and then having Manny, like, yeah, I could tell. And I was like, wow, is that what people hear when I talk or when, about anything? So I was like, all right, I should probably, do something about this because I thought I was better. And in some aspects, I probably was, other things in life were better, I guess. So I prefer to stay on course now.
Yeah.
No more backwards walking
Better
or
in the lo-
running.
No,
better-
dude, it was. So I watched the podcast just by chance because she happened to go on one of my old squad mates' podcast, and I was supporting him. And then there's a 2-part podcast, and I'm watching. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this chick? Come on, if anybody needs to be a pistol, it's this one. So I call my my partner who's running the podcast, and I said, you got Veronica's number? And he's like, I got with her on LinkedIn. I don't even think we changed numbers. And I was like, all right, cool. So her and Brian having been on the same department, I called Brian and I said, do you know Veronica? And he's like, yeah, she's come to Pistol. And I was like, are you sure? Like, we're talking about the same chick, right? And he's like, yeah, she just stopped coming like year and some change ago. And I was like, is there a reason why anybody hasn't checked on her? And he's like, well, I thought she was doing better. And I was like, no, call her. And so he gave me her number, and we sat down, and Brian and I sat down with her, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that meeting.
I was like,
Wow.
you're not. And I guess for me, we will, like we trade one vice for another. We'll just trade one good for a bad when we think, it's like our diet and our Tuesdays for telling you like that's 20%. What's 30? 30% is good. Like that's
30
right.
turns to 50.
Yeah.
50
And then
turns
you-
to
for
that
you
was me
fucking
today,
meal.
by the way. I ate, and I was like, oh, I feel like crap now.
So we. So what about you, Tony?
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what made me get help.
Well, what made you? Because when you came, you were brought in by
Another
another
yeah.
firefighter, and you looked like you needed help but weren't going to say a word.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was pretty much it.
yeah, like
Yeah.
You were one of those guys.
Yeah,
I
I
see
was.
them
I
come
was.
in all the time.
he was sitting there, and I was like, this guy's already got his head. He ain't saying a fucking
I'm like,
word.
I was sitting there and I'm just like, okay, I'll fucking listen now. I'll
and
just
we got like
kick back.
We got like 3 people into it, and he's like raises his hand, and I was like, you don't have to raise your hand, bro. What do you got? And he's like, bleh.
It was like, and I'm about to vomit.
He fucking let it go. But so were you suicidal?
Which time?
How
Yeah.
many times were you suicidal?
Let's see, 3
Yeah.
total times.
Did you ever ask anyone for help?
No. Me?
Yeah.
No. So I think the last time, that's when I actually told everybody that I was suicidal. But the very, very first time, the kids burnt up on me. Then, as the riots started to happen, my girlfriend or fiance at the time realized that I was really fucked up, decided to leave. So there's those 3 strikes, just fucking knock you to the dirt. So that's when I brought up the whole laying in bed, circulating with the fan, like, oh man, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I realized at that point that these were not normal thoughts, for sure. But I also had talked to a bunch of firefighters who had actually confessed that they had the same things happen to them, almost from those type of events. So I'm like, okay, well, I somehow related it and said it was normal, and to deal with it, right? So from there, I went and talked to of my chief at the time, and he said, yeah, go ahead and file that in the back of your head. You know, we all do that. That's normal. I was like, oh, okay. So
Did as
then-
you're told.
File
Yeah.
that in the back of your
Yeah,
head.
so,
and
okay.
It's normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I open that fucking file
Yeah.
cabinet that then hits the wall across from me, and store that back there. After that whole thing happened, and you know, I left the department. There was one more time before the last time when I was in Oregon, but I was in Seattle at one point, and go fucking figure, it was winter time. The grayness, the darkness, the rain, the not moving, the
environment, man, it's a
the
huge one.
Yeah,
It's
that
a huge
stagnant
effect.
feel.
Yeah.
That
Huge
stagnant feel just really, really, really took me into a hole, pretty much.
Mhm.
So I remember one day going to work and thinking, I'm just gonna go down the park and fucking off myself, just like that. Just
Seems
like
reasonable.
Yeah, like just I'm fucking tired of it. I walk to work all the time. What's different? I'm just gonna stroll down to the street and just do it. It's who cares? Nobody would fucking care anyway. That was my thought process, right?
Mhm.
And then as I walked to the park and just kind of sat there, I was sitting on a bench, and I'll remember it, and I was just like, meh, do I really want to do this? You would come to that point, and you're just like, the one thing that kicked into my head was my best friend that killed himself at 19. And I thought about it. He was one of my best friends. And 2,600 people showed up at his funeral. And that, for some reason, kicked me square in the balls. And I was like, fuck, I do have people that care. And I thought about my grandma. I thought about my mom. I thought about my dad. And I was just like, fuck, they would be really pretty torn up about it. So that is literally the one thing that saved me from that day. The other one was in Oregon, and that's when I actually came out and was like, Mom, I'm having these thoughts. I got to do something about it. So I went and saw a therapist.
A free counselor.
Yeah, for free, who said, yo, I'll help you out. I have a lot of experience in PTSD treatment. Well,
Sure.
go figure. I get there, and she sits me down and basically doesn't listen to a word I fucking say, slaps a Bible on the table and says, here, you need this. And then basically that's what kind of treatment I got.
Did it work?
Fuck no.
Oh, okay.
I walked out.
Because I'm looking for anything.
Yeah,
If that worked.
I was just like, no. And I kind of walked out. So, not hating on religion or anything like that. I'm just saying someone that
Good, because
just
if you were, I'd kill you.
It's
but
just
no,
a piece.
Just
but
to let
just
you know.
it
If you don't
should be
believe
It is a piece.
spirituality.
It's a piece,
Spirituality
yeah.
should be a piece
Yes.
of everyone's
If you don't believe in
lives.
heaven, I'm going to send you there.
but that's the one thing. It kind of, she slapped it on the table and was like, "This is your cure-all almost," and I
Right.
just wanted to punch her in the fucking head.
Yeah, it's not.
So yeah, that was my run-ins with treatments and stuff like that. So I had one good therapist that actually got me out of my shit, and then I never saw her again. So that's kind of where I'm at today. Even with this is some form of
Therapy?
help, I guess. Yeah.
right.
Sharing this shit with you guys and stuff like that, and then going to the meetings, like you said. I also take my life over. I go into the woods and meditate for hours at a time. Saturday I went up to Piestewa Peak and just sat there and meditated for about an hour and a half. So like, there's that type of way of quieting your brain as well.
You still crazy?
Oh fuck.
Oh,
yeah.
well, then that didn't
Fuck
fucking
yeah.
work either.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's kind
It's
of
a piece.
That's what I explained to everybody, is that it's a piece of the puzzle that you have to complete.
Right.
But if you think about it, like, how many pieces
Yeah.
of the bad shit created where we are.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
One of the people in the red line actually explains it perfectly. It's like a pane glass of just different shards put into one window, and that's every call. That's everything that you see at a daily fucking pace. You
Right.
know,
Right.
it's nuts.
Hey, let me ask you something. So, if you were, let's say you cross somebody's path, you,
hmm
and you were trying to counsel yourself, how would you tell current Tony, how would you tell Tony of the past to get help?
That's a great question. I would say don't file it in the back of your head. That was the one thing that fucking killed me. Like, and not killed me, but like that's what led me here. Was I filed it in the back of my fucking head and went on with my life, and it just slowly, pitifully deteriorated and got me into a bowl of shit.
Right.
You know, so don't file it. Go out and talk about it, because talking about it does actually help.
I would tell somebody. I would tell myself of the past. It's not normal. People confuse it's common
Yeah.
with that's
Normal.
normal.
Right.
Because anyone who goes through a shooting or a horrific event, it would be common for you to have terrible nightmares about that and lose all of your sleep, and for them to get progressively worse. That would be a common occurrence, but not normal.
Right.
So don't think you can just ride it out because it's normal.
Yeah.
You got to get help when it happens, and the
Mhm.
sooner it happens and you get help, the better. It's not normal.
Well, I mean, look at me. Like, I'm in a sense like Veronica. I run the I ran to Seattle from Missouri. You know.
Nobody runs to Seattle.
But that's my no. But that's my thing. Is like you don't. It always catches up with you. This is
Oh, yeah.
7
Yeah.
years later.
yeah,
6-7 years later, something like that.
you
like
can't escape your mind.
it fucking catches
matter-
up with
Oh,
you.
it will.
No matter how far you run, you can't
And
get
when
away from your brain.
yeah, and that's the sad part, because I think those firefighters in New York, it's catching up with them
Yeah.
while they're not even knowing what the fuck is going on. The education is just pitiful nowadays. As much as everybody says it's leading edge and stuff like that, there is no fucking help for PTSD. There's not.
Right. They don't
There's
even have
not-
it for the
there's-
vets.
Well,
yeah,
there's
there's
not
a brief-
silver bullet, and
there's
that's
a
what we all
brief-
want.
exactly,
We all want
yeah.
one pill that will
Right.
stop
Yep.
it all.
There's a
and there
brief
isn't one.
handout that explains what PTSD is.
Right.
You know, that's literally what we compare it to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
What about you, Veronica? What would you counsel yourself as
Well,
far as getting
I like
help?
what you said, because I think we all use the term normal, like what we're experiencing is just normal for
Mhm.
everybody, and the way that you put it makes a lot of sense, because it's not normal behavior. We would never go out to a call. I would say, like, however you handle people on a call in crisis is what you should be doing for yourself. Because
Mm.
when we go out on calls,
True.
we
I
know
love
where
that.
to send
Yeah.
them. We know what resources they need. We know what to do. You know, we sit and we tell them all of these things, give them the best advice that we have, and then we go back and we ignore our own shit and move on to the next thing instead of taking our own advice.
That's
But the
great.
problem with that is though, when you know, we're empathetic to them, but what are we saying when we drop them off at fucking Taros? You know, God damn, motherfucker's nuts.
Great.
Exactly.
Like, well, I just lied to you, bro. It's only 72 hours, man. It's for your benefit. You leave and you're like, fuck, I'm glad I got that guy out the fucking car.
That's a fucking great point.
And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of officers won't reach out, is because they know what they've said to those 918 people or those
Yeah.
5150 people. And it's a
Well, I'm
different.
not saying like check yourself in. Like I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm not
saying
e-
like
yeah, right.
have the same empathy for yourself
Yeah.
that you have for others.
You can
know,
get care
Underst-
without locking yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
But what we immediately go to that, because that's what we think crazy
Well,
is.
and that's what I'm saying. That's why you got to get rid of catchphrases like "that's normal,"
yeah.
you know,
Right.
and all that other stuff.
What did you guys do for, and this goes for firefighters. If somebody picked up the phone, called 911, said, I got a fucking gun in my mouth right now. What did you guys do? What was the immediate thought besides de-escalating and getting the weapon out of
Yeah.
his hand, what was the end result of that call in your mind? Where were they
Oh.
going?
Yeah,
Straight
they're
to
going
Yeah.
check.
They're going
Yeah.
straight to the
Straight
fucking
to
loony bin.
UPC.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what? So by default, me being a cop, picking up that same phone and going, I feel like I'm going to hurt myself,
Yeah.
leads me in my mind to know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't ask for
Yeah.
help. But if I would have threw that idea out that it's normal to have these nightmares recurring like that, I could have got help sooner, and I don't think I would have ended up
Right.
in there.
The
Um,
correct help.
And here's the other thing: if you're watching this and these are all thoughts that are common to you, it's not normal. And secondly,
Yeah.
we're all out.
Yeah.
We all went through it, and we all got out, and
There
we're
is a-
alive. And I'm happy that I'm alive, and I have a future, and I have sunshine and everything beautiful in the world. And so we've all gone through it, and you guys can too.
And part of it, like for me, I asked for help. That next morning, I went straight and I asked for help. They got me the wrong help,
Oh yeah.
right? They said, hey, go see this counselor. And I let her have it. I told her exactly what was wrong. I let her know, and she stopped me in mid-session and said, I can't see you right now. You need to go to your doctor, and you need to be heavily medicated. And so, in my mind, looking back, I took the steps I needed to. And here's why. Police work was my life, and I was good at it. But what made me great were the guys and gals on my squads that I was the closest to, especially in gangs. We never treated each other as we were weak, and we would always debrief something, and everyone got an honest opinion. If you did something wrong, you were called out, and it was corrected.
Mhm.
Then you would ask, did I do anything wrong? Could I have done something different? So when I was going through mine, I resorted back to that. If I go ask these people for help, they're in turn going to correct the problem because I did the right thing by asking for help.
Yeah.
So my issues were never me going and asking. I didn't really have a whole lot of shame, but that might have been just because a couple of guys on the squad had already gone through that and they needed help and I was there for them. So I figured it's no different than kicking a door, right? I never focused for me. I focused for my partner who had his back to the shooter. I needed to guard his back. So when I did ask, it was all the wrong help. Like you said, it was archaic.
It was misguidance.
Yeah. They were like, go talk to this person in this fucking corner office somewhere, and she's going to be behind there. You got to knock the door 3 times. She's going to slide it open. You're going to give a secret handshake. She's going to let you in. You go out the back. Everything about that was set up for me to believe that asking for help was not okay. It wasn't lit up like the uniform shop
Yeah.
where everybody went to go get their knives and their toys,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't lit up like that. And I just met with an officer this last week, and Mark was there, and we know we're not dumb. We know you guys are watching us and listening to us and waiting for the right time to step in, which is fine. That's cool. But just keep in mind that the longer you wait, the worse you get, right? I would have never, ever, ever, ever cleared a building by myself. If I made that stupid mistake and cleared a building by myself, one, I would have never been on a specialty detail. You don't make mistakes like that.
Mhm.
If I was in patrol, I would have got my ass handed to me for clearing a fucking building by myself. You're trying to clear your mind. You're trying to walk through that mind by yourself without anyone, and you don't know what the fuck's in there.
Yeah, and you don't you don't have the tools because your academy doesn't teach you how to help your own self and how to help your mind. So go to the professionals. Everybody wants to kick drugs, in the gut and say drugs are bad. Oh, I hated the side effects. At a point, I mean, I needed those medications so badly because I was going to kill myself.
Right.
And I needed them, and they knew it, and I took them, and I'm alive. I'm alive.
Well, you asked for help.
I asked for help.
I don't think anybody here didn't.
I finally got good help. I finally got the
Right.
right help. It was
Well, and
many
that's what I
people
think
later.
people don't understand about Pistol is that we're not just a group of sad cops or something
Right.
that sit around and just cry. That does happen, but it doesn't, that's not our typical. And we offer so much more than just the group. The camaraderie of the group, I think, is one of our biggest pluses that we have. But when you're going through shit, when you're dealing with administration, with workers' comp, with the town or city side, and doctors and psychiatrists and all these things, like
medications.
Right, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Like, you're trusting people that you don't know anything about. And I think when you come to Pistol, you become a part of this. Everybody here has somebody. Everybody here's gone to somebody, good and bad, right? Like, we all know the bad doctors. Everybody's talked about them. We share that all the time. So when you come here, there's so much more to it than just sitting in a circle talking, and not only are you gaining something from being here by us, but you being here with us helps the next guy also.
And it helps us.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
7 years out, like fucking Teabag over here, and Mark, 15, 16 years out, we still get fucked up.
Right.
We still get
Right.
triggered.
We
Okay.
do, but it is like what Veronica said. It's medicinal for us, and it's therapeutic and healing for us if you come alongside us as our backup in this call.
Well, and
So.
one of the things I wanted to address what Veronica was talking about, I'm calling bullshit on the people that reach out and say, well, I'd go, but I don't like so-and-so, right? Is that how you lived your career? You didn't go to the specialty unit because you didn't like so-and-so, right? There's fucking 4 groups in this valley, right? You can excuse the fuck out of all of them if you want, but I know for a fact you don't know someone
in
on the other side of the fucking valley that you rarely frequent,
Right.
and because it's too long of a drive, that's your excuse, right? I never, in my career, I didn't like people. That's going to happen. But I never let them dictate whether or not my career was going to move forward, and you should not let someone else dictate whether or not you're going to fucking be mentally healthy
yeah.
over somebody saying, well, you guys, I know that guy, and I just don't fucking trust him.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's what turns it from a clique to an actual therapy group.
Well, and
That's why we're not a clique. We're a
Right.
therapy group, and there's people in there. This will be hard for the audience to believe, but there are people that don't like me. I know.
That's fucking
Sit
hard.
down.
Very impossible.
I hope you were sitting down when you heard that. But some people don't like me, and they still go to group.
Well-
and we know each other. Like, we got the eye on each other.
Well, you're
but
watching motherfuckers.
yeah,
and
but we still are therapeutic to each other. We still help each other. We still like, hey, you know what? I know what you're going through. And when I was hitting that, I tried this. Maybe you want to try that. We still offer that.
But it's almost the same as, like, everyone's incident or critical incident, right, is different. But
Yeah.
all the signs and symptoms of this shit are the same.
well, not to
Right.
mention you probably don't like that motherfucker because he has PTSD and he's a dick.
Yeah, that's probably one of the
He had it
one of
before
the-
you did.
one
You
of
know
the
what I mean?
radiating
Like, it's like,
circles.
well,
Yeah.
Right.
I probably don't like that motherfucker because he's got anger
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, because we definitely don't have people that were lazy that were like, well, I'm going to put myself 10-6 on that e-call.
Yeah.
You didn't get PTSD while you were fucking writing reports in the fucking
Stolen
station.
bike call.
You're like, oh, I'm tied up on this shoplift while everybody's fucking in a shooting, The only time that's huge what Mark is talking about, Veronica's talking about, you don't have to like the motherfucker sitting across from you. I worked on squads. I worked on specialty details where I didn't necessarily like one of the other division's sergeants or one of the other division's detectives. But at the end of the I don't want to say it. I stopped myself. I stopped
you
myself.
did
You never
it.
did pay me the
I gotta pay you. I
$20,
gotta pay
fool.
you. So I stopped myself. But all in all, the goal was to do the right thing and catch the bad guy. And we could do it well together. And, at the end of that little warrant check or search warrant or whatever, scoop that we were going to pick up, the street jump, we did it together, and I still didn't have to like him.
Mhm.
We achieved the goal together.
Yeah.
And that this is why I wanted to have the podcast, because I know that there's officers out there who are struggling, deeply, deeply struggling. They're a boozer like me and Mark, Tony.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, Damn it! I was gonna say I'm glad you didn't call me a boozer. but
I
think you
waited
were just
until the
coming
very
around
last
corner. Dang it! I didn't realize
to
you
talk
were
about the
going around
boozer to my right over here, which is something that is notorious for us, and for us, we're being officers' lives are being taken at a greater rate because of this nonsense than bad guys, which is huge because all day long we see officers getting shot, killed in the line of duty from a traffic accident, something, and we're still almost twice that because we're killing ourselves. And that is why, if you're watching this, reach out.
I do want to say something though, because we always talk about those officers who, the ones who went the opposite direction or whatever, but I think it's important to say that even if you were that officer who avoided everything, right? All it takes is one fucked up call to get you here. You don't, obviously some officers who have done a career long of really bad shit and getting into everything, they're fucked up. But there are some people who really tried to avoid everything for whatever reasons, and they, only takes one baby brain on your hand or something or one mom screaming for hours and hours where it just doesn't leave you.
Or seeing even your coworkers,
Right.
your fellow officer, or hearing about them getting destroyed, wrecked, or any of that stuff. So, like what she's saying, don't quantify your grief.
Well, and even even to the firefighters, the same thing. Their aspect of a team. We go to the fucking same grocery store together.
You guys
we
fucking
can't
sleep together.
We can't do anything alone.
Right.
That is true.
Why the fuck would you think you can deal with PTSD alone?
Good point.
Why would I think that? I have no idea, but it blows my mind that it goes through our mind that we can do it alone.
Well, I think sometimes what happens is, if we're on a squad and 3 of us or 4 of us see the same thing and only one of us is fucked up, we say we're the weak one.
True.
But,
Yeah.
but to take back what you've said in the past is, if you might think you're the only one fucked up just because they're not sharing
Exactly.
either,
Well, they keep their mouth shut.
Standing up
Right.
and saying something is actually being that one guy that colors outside the
Right.
lines and says, "Hey,
And
maybe
it
I am
opens the
fucked
door
up," and
Right.
that's
to let
the
the
strong
other
one.
ones
Yeah,
come
yeah.
in and say it.
I
Yep.
agree.
All right,
Crazy.
guys. I appreciate you guys talking about this. This was a little bit more serious. Normally we're bullshitting. Although this was a podcast of rather large vocabulary.
It
We might
was.
have to
I'm
do
so
a
proud of
word
you.
of the week.
Indubitably.
Yeah, a word of the week. And then we can post it and tell everyone to use it in a sentence in their week.
Antiquated.
And I don't know what that word. I got to look it up. Use that in a sentence tomorrow. So you guys are awesome. Veronica, you should have just left the exact same attire on, and
I did. I totally wore it for the game. I
Cliff
just changed
would
before I
be
got
very
here.
happy today. But no,
Cliff's
He's
pissed.
not.
Yeah,
he
he's
was
not.
really
He
not.
would have
happy.
31-9.
yeah.
Hey.
Wow. All because you just didn't put the same chonies on. You should have just left them on.
We should cheers to Cliff.
No, that's this one's fault over here. She would have played by the rules, superstition rules. So, you guys, thank you guys for coming out. As always, to us and those like us. Hey, come join us, like Mark says. We'll see you on the next one.
Yes.